Committee wrapping just minutes ago, we heard bombshell testimony from a former aide to then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows about members of Congress, Republicans, asking preemptively for pardons following the January 6th Capitol insurrection. We also learned that Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry was pushing for a lower-level Justice Department official, Jeffrey Clark, to become the acting Attorney General. Former President Trump was hoping that acting Attorney General Clark would then help him weaponize the Justice Department to help him overturn the results of the 2020 election. I want to turn to the Select Committee member who played a leading role in today's hearing, Congressman Adam Kinzinger, Republican of Illinois. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. The hearing was really about Trump's attempt to weaponize the Justice Department, but it ended with the panel revealing the names of Republican members of Congress whom witnesses say sought pardons, preemptive pardons, from then President Trump. They include Congressman Mo Brooks, Matt Gaetz, Andy Biggs, Louis Gohmert, Scott Perry, perhaps Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's unclear. Hers is less direct. These are still your sitting colleagues in the House of Representatives. What should happen to them? Should they be censured? Should they be removed from committees? What do you think?
Well, look, that's, I guess, the decision for colleagues, right? I mean, my job is to put that evidence out there. And as I said at the end of that, is like, I only know of one reason to seek a pardon, because you're worried that you're guilty, that you committed a crime. This is something they have to answer to their constituents. You know, I can't enforce rules of the House or do certain things unilaterally, but I think the bigger point is, listen, America, do you really want your members of Congress out there trying to bend or break the law so that they can maintain political power? That is like anathema to everything we ever learned in history class, whether you were in third grade or whether you're a senior, and that's got to stop.
It's interesting because you had three Trump loyalists, Rosen, Donahue, and Engel, testifying today. These are officials who were loyal to Donald Trump, but they were willing to resign instead of go along with his unconstitutional, perhaps illegal scheme. On the other hand, you have the Trump loyalists that we just mentioned, these Republican members of the House. Do you think, in your opinion, are they fit to remain in office?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to go there. That's a decision between them and their constituents. I've been able to present what I've presented. I will say this, though. Let's contrast them to these three gentlemen that were in front there today. I'm sure all three of them voted for Donald Trump. I'm sure all three of them were sad he lost. I'm sure all three of them wished the election would have been different. But when faced with that pressure, I mean, I don't think it's tough to explain how much pressure it is when you have a president of the United States putting that on you, for all of them to stand strong, for all the deputy, attorneys to basically make the decision that they were going to all resign. It's an amazing story in that courage, honestly. But I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind, and I kind of said this in my opening statement, is what would happen if something different happened in the future? What if any of those people would have said, we will put the Department of Justice stamp on your lies and conspiracy? This democracy would be in trouble. This isn't over. We're not out of the woods.
Donahue, the former acting deputy attorney general, said that he told Jeffrey Clark that Clark was advocating, quote, nothing less than meddling in the outcome of an election. And we also heard that Clark was conducting his own investigation. And take a listen to what we heard about voting machines. The idea that Trump was telling Jeffrey Rosen to seize, why haven't you seized the machine? In your view, do you think that the committee heard or presented evidence today that Trump directed the Justice Department to break the law?
I think we've shown a lot of evidence that the president knew what he was doing. The breaking the law part, I think yes, personally, but I like to leave that to DOJ. Ironically, DOJ was on the stand today. They probably have a special interest in what happened at this moment. You had mentioned the voting machine things. Think about this. The president asked Rosen to seize voting machines. He said, I can't do it. So the president calls Ken Cuccinelli at DHS and says, hey, Rosen here said you can seize voting machines. Of course, he never said that, right. But that just goes to show you can't trust anything the president says. Thankfully, Ken Cuccinelli said, yeah, we can't seize machines either.
I mean, one of the things that's so telling, and I guess we've known this for years now, but just to see it play out, because of the committee hearings is that, you know, a few people different in those roles, you know, a bunch of Jeffrey Clarks serving as vice president, serving as acting attorney general, serving as Maricopa County Board of Supervisors in Arizona, serving as Secretary of State of Georgia, just a handful of Jeffrey Clarks replacing any of those individuals. And all these individuals I'm talking about are Trump loyalist conservative Republicans. And we very well could have lost democracy in the United States.
Yeah. You know who else knows that? Not just you, not just me, but the Steve Bannons of the world that are actually planning this. They think under the radar they can put in, you know, loyalists, and frankly they can. I mean, that's the point, is every one of these hearings we've done, we've shown like a layer of stuff that could go wrong, and there's really no there's no magic police force that if people don't follow through on their oath is going to come in and enforce that. It's really just us having to hold true to what we believe. And, you know, it's what happens in Trump's second term in theory, or a Trump accolade in his term in presidency. Now he can interview anybody for DOJ or any position and says, is your loyalty to me or is it to the Constitution? And eventually, trust me, you're going to find people that say, I will pledge my loyalty to you over the Constitution.
I remember you telling me one time that the guardrails held, but sometimes you drive by guardrails on a highway and you see it's dented and it held, but then you wonder, is it going to hold next time?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, you could see it. You see it probably save somebody's life, destroyed their car. But if it takes another one right to there, it's probably you're gonna plunge off a cliff. We're really there, and this is why the whole thing. It's great to tell the story, but the biggest point is, ladies and gentlemen, you have to vote not based on every little issue that bothers you, but based on who is going to uphold their oath to the Constitution, because that is the only thing that matters.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, a Republican of Illinois, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, you bet. See ya.
Today's hearing comes as CNN has obtained the never-before-seen footage